Okay, so hopefully this is recording, and I wanted to make a little video on my impressions of this Linux system that I installed. So this is Arch Linux, and it's running i3 gaps, or blocks, I'm not really sure which, but i3. And it's got this status bar, which right now is bigger than it is normally. And I installed something called Larbs. I've been watching this guy on YouTube named Luke Smith, and he has this kind of install script, because Arch doesn't come with much out of the box. It doesn't come with a GUI, and you can install all of that yourself. But if you're like me and it's your first time and you don't know quite what you're doing, this Larbs thing was a much easier way to get started. Now, I don't vouch for the security of that. I haven't looked at every line of code that's involved. But he's got quite a lot of subscribers and views, and I think a lot of people have looked at Larbs. If you just Google Larbs, L-A-R-B-S, it should come up. But I think I'm going to show his GitHub page later, towards the end of the video. So I'll give you the too long didn't read in a second, but I just want to say that I'm going to talk about things that are about Linux, things that are, I guess, specific to Arch on an Apple machine. I'm running this on a MacBook Pro from 2013. I want to talk about the installation, what was involved with the installation, because that was quite a process. I didn't find a single source that explained everything. I had to look around quite a bit. But okay, so the too long didn't read is that firstly, you really shouldn't go down this road unless you're I'm gonna get rid of this thing here. You shouldn't go down this road unless you are very comfortable with the terminal, or you enjoy using the terminal, because that is kind of the idea here. There are other desktop environments that you can install, which, by the way, i3 and other desktop environments will work also with Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is easier to install. Now, the installation on Apple machines can be difficult, and I believe this is because, well, there's a big issue, which is that at least for my machine, the Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers are proprietary normally. So it's kind of this binary blob where we don't know exactly what it does. Maybe it helps the NSA watch what you're doing. I have no idea. But so they don't have the open source driver for that. So what that means is that that's a big complication for the installation process. It's kind of easy to solve, but that means that if you follow the ordinary installation instructions, it's going to want you to connect to the internet. That's how Arch is usually installed in the beginning, fairly early on anyway. And I guess they do that to get you the latest packages. Yeah, the most recent stuff. So anyway, so the thing is, with a lot of these Apple laptops, you do not have an Ethernet port, right? So you cannot plug directly into your router or modem with a category 5 Ethernet cable. So how do you need the internet to install this proprietary Wi-Fi driver that is not part of the Arch installation itself. So what I did, and this is the easiest probably, is, well, I'll just say first, if you have an Android phone, you may be able to just plug that in with USB and sort of tether it or reverse tether it, I guess. And you can Google how to do that. But I didn't have an Android device. I tried to do that with my iPhone. It didn't work. I tried with 2 iPhones. So what I did is I went online, and for $10 I ordered a Ethernet to USB converter, and I plugged directly into the modem, and then that worked. I was able to install everything and install the package. It's called Broadcom-WL, and but you really need to check for your particular machine. So be sure to Google. Let's have a look at some of what that is. So if I just Google Mac, oh, here's some stuff, huh? I don't get this, why it shows my history, even in a incognito window. I don't really like that. So just for purposes of making these videos. Alright, so this was very helpful, this one, but let's see, Mac installation, sorry, Arch, whatever, this is going to get us some stuff. Some of my results are in Japanese here, but let's just change the English here. Don't know if that helped everything, but okay. This is what I used. Now I have I installed this on 2 machines. I have a MacBook Air, and a MacBook Pro. That's not what I want. Okay, that is not it. I loaded this up twice for some reason. Okay, let's change this up. Arch installation, MacBook. This I can change the I can get the normal English one here just by changing it from JP to org. Okay, so you want to find this page and use these installation instructions, and you've got all these different MacBooks here. And on top of this, you'll find Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers installation Linux. I should get this thing that I want. Yeah, so quite a few people have had this problem that I was describing, even for other flavors of Linux. And so you may want to find this page and look at this answer, which is, I think, by far the best answer here. It's got quite a lot of information. You're going to want to check your what device you have in your system, and then look here for some instructions. But actually, I mean, probably this is good enough. But if you have more problems, you want to look at this. Since I'm talking about the installation, I'll just also mention, just off of the top of my head, let's see here, if I can remember, because on one of my machines I did a dual boot, and I want to explain how to do that, but really it needs to be another video. In fact, I want to kind of make a tutorial video on a full, how to install Arch on a MacBook. But so if you want to dual boot, the information that was hard for me to find. First off, I partitioned my hard drive on the Mac operating system, Mac OS, using the normal disk utility. And what I did is I wanted 4 partitions, so I made, did I make those 4 at the time? Yeah, I made 4 partitions, extra partitions. And then, so one of them is going to be your bootloader, one of them is your root, one of them is your home for your user, and then another is swap. And most of the instructions, when you yeah, like I said, I did that on the Mac OS just to to increase the chances that I don't damage the operating system that's already there, the Mac OS that's already there. And what was I going to say? Of course, I backed up everything, obviously, and not only that, I installed I made a clean install of the Mac OS. That doesn't really matter, but it made things. It can free up a lot of space on your hard disk to do that. You can put your files that you care about on an external hard drive. I don't like the way that Mac backs things up normally because it uses Time Machine and it backs up the whole system. And for some reason, I find that Macs, all of my Macs and other people's Macs that I look at, they end up with a bunch of system files that take up a ton of hard disk space, and I don't even know why. I need to look into that deeper, but yeah, so if you do a clean install, that is going to clear up a lot of space, which so you'll have more space for your partition. Then, where are we here? Swap. Okay, so there is some of the installation instructions, like I think this medium one. Actually, I'm about to say something incorrect, I think. Let me see here. I think... Okay, they use CG disk. Yeah, I think I use C... I'll have to check. I'll put, if I'm wrong, I'll put something in the description. But I did not use F-disk, and some of the other stuff was saying F-disk. But the thing is that F-disk, it was not as easy to get all the types of partitions that you can make. At least it wasn't immediately obvious. I mean, it lists some types, but not as much as if you use, I guess it's CG disk. I want to say I used, yeah, I guess I used CG disk. And so when you tell CG disk to list the types, you'll have many more types available. And so for the swap partition, there's a type called Linux swap partition. For the boot partition, there's something called EFI system, if I remember correctly. And for your root and your home is going to be, the type is Linux file system. Then I proceeded to do all these installation instructions, and then by the way, you don't want to use Yowert anymore. If you Google that, this is the old package manager. It's been changed to Yay, which is Y-A-Y. So this was meant to be impressions of the OS, but this ended up being like a description of how to install it. But I don't know. I'm gonna end up like remaking these videos. It's gonna have to evolve and improve. But I just want to get some stuff out there because people are actually asking a lot of questions on Luke Smith's channel. And where were we? So the boot loading. Let me find the boot loading part. This was a more informative guide, by the way. So the Arch Wiki installation instructions, they kind of assume that you know what you're doing. So they don't provide a lot of detailed information. Well, look at it. There is a lot of information, but this was important. After installing those the Broadcom device driver, ended up using this to connect to the Wi-Fi. There's this IP link stuff. Okay, here's the where's the boot loading stuff? You can see this is pretty long. This is another issue I'm going to be talking about later. Yeah, okay, here's the bootloading stuff. I did use systemd boot, and for this information you should check the Arch wiki info. They talk about it. There's a generic page about the installation. Yeah, I believe it's on here for the bootloader. Now, the thing is that using systemd, is it systemd, right? Yeah, that plays nicely with the built-in Mac bootloader. So I'm able to use the Mac bootloader. Of course, this is for the dual boot, and you hold down. I hold down the Option key after the chime, or when I see the backlight turn on. Hold down the Option key, and then I have the choice. Now, I looked at this grub stuff. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just use the systemd, but when I dug in here, there's some, like a package that was not updated or something like that. Anyway, these instructions are long, and it's easier to not do that, to use the systemd. Then, what else here? You should know that, just as general information, Mac uses GUID, I guess it's called, GUID, which is the description of, what is that, the description of their way of partitioning the hard drive. Be careful, of course, when you're partitioning. If you make a mistake, you'll wipe out something that you need. So yeah, it says CG disk. Sorry, I'm scrolling around here. I just wanted to say something about systemd. I am not totally sure. So I did this with internet, of course, and then there's more to do here. Probably if you look in here, you can find the information, but I think this is long, I believe. Maybe it's not so bad, but it's not immediately obvious looking at this stuff. It was easier to follow these instructions. And then, so here's something, I don't know if this was a problem or not, but it seemed like I had some kind of problem where it was only going into my Arch system and wouldn't let me go back. So I had to kind of put in my installation USB drive again, and then edit the boot partition to make sure that everything was correct with this stuff and this stuff. And yeah, of course. So these instructions are easier to follow, for sure. So MacBook Pro uses EFI to load its OS, which is why you can do systemd boot. These instructions here are not for dual booting. They are for wiping out everything and only booting up with Arch. So if you want to do that, you follow this one. If you want to dual boot, then all I've got to offer you at this point is the stuff that I have told you about how to partition it, the types and whatnot, and how I did it starting from the Mac OS. What else? It says here some instructions on how to, if you're googling how to install Linux on a Mac or how to boot into Linux on a Mac or stuff like that. Some of it is going to tell you to install reffind. Where is that stuff? And it's just saying that you don't need to do that. So don't bother with reffind. Now, I need to, so, all right, this is turned into just the installation stuff. Another thing is, after you download the ISO, that's the thing to install Arch, you want to verify that download with a checksum. And the checksum that Arch uses is MD5? M5D? M5D, was it? MD5, what am I doing? MD5? Huh? MD5. And at the time, I was not sure if I had that on my Mac, and so but later I noticed that there is a binary on your Mac called MD5, so that might work. The other thing is you need to write that onto this this USB drive, right? So when you do that, there's this application some people recommend called Etcher. This was very fast and convenient for me to do. But what I actually did is I started a virtual machine of Ubuntu in my Mac using, what is it, Oracle VM or whatever. And then Oracle VM, I believe it's called. You need the, so if you're going to get that virtual machine to read your USB drive, you're going to need these extensions. So what is it? Oracle VM extension pack. Yeah. You're going to want to install this after you install the Oracle VM VirtualBox. You're going to also want to put this in there. It's not hard. So that then you can identify the USB. Just Google the instructions for mounting a USB on your virtual machine. The only little gotcha, which this is showing my inexperience, but follow those instructions. But in order for the VM to see it, you have to unmount it on your Mac. So it might be on your desktop or whatever, and you just right-click and unmount. And then let's see if we can see this, an image of what this looks like. In the bottom right corner, once you get it going, it'll look, something like this. Yeah, you have this, I don't know if you can see it, bottom right corner. So you can't be in full screen. In the bottom right corner is this little, there's one that's a USB thing. And so after you've unmounted the USB, then you can right click here and then click on whatever the name comes up for that. And then you can access it on your VM using the command lsblk, which is a command you'll be using a lot. lsblk to list the devices that are connected to your machine and their partitions. All right. So I did that. So then I had to download the ISO in the VM. Then I did the MD5. I checked the MD5 checksum. You can just Google how to do that. Now that's pretty important, because if you don't do that, some middleman in wherever you're downloading from, some middleman attack could insert some kind of malicious script. So you're gonna want to do that. Okay, you're talking about the security of your entire operating system. So I really recommend that you verify it. Then and just Google for the checksums. What else have we got here? So that's pretty much it for kind of the notes for the installation. I would follow this guide because it's got MacBook specific stuff. There's probably some more outdated information here, so if anybody is an expert, hopefully they can tell us that. This information about connecting to the internet, this is how, once you've got your Ethernet plugged in, how you're going to connect to the internet is like this. So this GP interrupt stuff is, well, you can read about it here. I had a GP17 and GP16 that was looping and using up my CPU resources, and so I followed these instructions to get rid of that. But I don't know, maybe I made a typo or something, but the GP16 one sometimes is hogging my CPU still, and so maybe shortly after starting up my computer, I run. Also, what I do is, I run this as root here. Okay, so I made a mistake, but anyway, so this this command here I run as root. Anyway, this stuff is explained in that Medium article, and this command here will list. Anyway, you can read the article; it has this information. Okay. So other complications. I got some notes here. Let me just put some check marks on here. By the way, that Etcher app is extremely fast and convenient. So again, I don't vouch for its security, but it's much faster than what I described just a second ago about the VM and all that. All right. So let's go through the kind of issues that I had. And again, some of this is Linux related, some of it is Larbs related, and maybe some of it is Arch related. So the GP interrupts, I talked about that. So one thing is sound. Basically, everything is muted when you start up. So actually, the things I'm about to mention a list of about 8 items, and all of these are just things that you need to Google and figure out. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes an hour to figure out. But I'll just kind of list these things. And so the sound, so it's muted at first. Just Google how to unmute it. Actually, with Larbs, you can probably just kind of, if you click here, you'll get this option. And maybe that will work. Or on the Arch wiki, there's some instructions. It's, I think it might be, you should check it out. By the way, I added this to the status bar. I like knowing my system temperature. What else? The resolution. So Mac laptops have Retina displays, which are, what are they called? High DPI, I guess. And so what's interesting is right now I'm recording this monitor, right, which is full HD or 1080p, and this is it's much bigger than the screen for my laptop, but actually it has less pixels. So those Retina displays are pretty highly detailed. And so on this machine, which is a MacBook Pro from 2013, when I started, it came out with a resolution way too small to really, not way too small, but small enough to be kind of so annoying that I didn't really want to use it. And so I was Googling how to solve that. I actually haven't solved it yet. I put in maybe 30 minutes trying to figure that out. And but what I did is I plugged it into a monitor, and it's okay on the monitor. I still have a problem, which is that the laptop display is running. So okay, so one thing that was happening, I wanted to use it on the monitor, but then I wanted to close the MacBook lid, right? They say. And when I would close it, I think it was sleeping, so I had to figure out, I had to Google that. It's one of the things on this list here. and I kind of forget, like I think it was, but I had to go into system something and uncomment a line and tell it to ignore when the lid is closed. So now it's ignoring when the lid is closed, but that means that there's a window. So you have these workspaces, and workspace 1 is on the Mac display, which is closed, which is kind of a waste. And if, for example, in Larbs, well, if I click here, I think, or if I do F1, the Larbs help file comes up. But if the but that will come up on workspace 1, which I can't see. So just a random little thing, that little problem. I still haven't completely gotten this the way I want it to be, but it's not bothering me at this moment. So it's these things. Then this is just a random Linux thing, I guess. So I have an external hard drive with a lot of files on it, and I was using the Mac operating system to use that. And this is an HFS plus. I don't think that defines the drive itself. I think that that's something that Mac imposes on it. I'm not exactly sure. But so I run this command to mount it, and or to remount it with this command. And of course, you need to fill this in, these two things. But by the time you've got Arch installed, you're gonna be pretty familiar with what you need to put here. Okay, so that's one thing. Then let's see, crossing off a list. Copy pasting. Well, this is a Linux thing, I guess. It's not too difficult. Basically, for most apps, you're going to use Control-C, Control-V, but in the terminal, Control-C is usually stopping a command. So you're going to do Alt-C and Alt-V in the terminal. So it's a minor annoyance. I would like to change it so that the system, for everything, it's Alt-Control, or Alt-C and Alt-V, but I haven't bothered with that yet. And I have problems at this point copy pasting in Vim between, like if I'm in one file and then switch to a different file. I'm having some kind of trouble there. I don't know why. So yeah, figuring out with Vim. Actually, Luke Smith has a video on the copy pasting stuff, because when you throw Vim into the equation, there's more stuff to think about. But actually, Vim has some cool stuff with registers, where you can. It's like you get to use a clipboard with, instead of just one thing there, tons. Like each key can be used as a clipboard, which is really cool. Then another thing is, so using Larbs, a lot of things have been remapped. Keys. For Luke Smith, just a little criticism I have is I haven't figured out exactly where everything is, because of course I check the bash rc. There's another file, a dot file called shortcuts, but I don't think that's that important. And then there's a whole directory called scripts, which has several files with different stuff in it. So what I've been doing when I want to figure out, when I want to find something, I basically grep recursively for, let's say, I3 commands or something like that. I might be typing something stupid, but I think maybe this is a thing. I'm not sure. Let's say, well, whatever. That's not the point. It doesn't matter. And then that config, for example, I've been doing this kind of command. So, or actually, what's even better is I went to his GitHub and cloned, he calls this void rice. It's called Larbs, that's what installs it on your machine, but then he's got a repo called void rice, which is just all the files, like the dot files and everything. So so anyway, so I cloned void rice into a directory, and then I can grep that directory. That's better because you're not just grepping the config, you're kind of covering more there. The .config directory has a lot of stuff that you want to check out. Okay, so that's one thing. Then another thing to think about is he's got some mappings to stuff that is only on a larger keyboard, like page up and page down, print screen, etc. And so what I would like is something where, you know, I can take my laptop out to a cafe and not need to worry about the fact that I don't have those keys. So that's something I haven't figured out. If anybody else has kind of figured out how to adjust all his keys and whatnot, that would be cool. My plan is to use this for a while until I get, you know, pretty well familiar with everything, and then maybe at some point, this might be a few years from now, do a clean install and kind of build things from scratch the way I want them, and so I understand everything that's going on, and I can get rid of stuff that I don't understand. Okay, other thing I need to talk about is using a Mac. I believe so I have an Nvidia graphics card, and I believe these are proprietary drivers, and so you need to install them manually. Now, your system, and I believe this applies to all Linux installations, your system, yeah, I installed Elementary, and I had to do the same thing. Elementary OS, by the way, is pretty cool. That is a better solution for people that don't want all the complexity with Arch. But Ubuntu, I don't like Ubuntu because it's too, I don't know, something not cool, not sexy, a little cringy. Like it just seems old to me. So anyway, so I think this is a general Linux thing, but you have to install these drivers, Nvidia drivers. Actually, I think it might be as simple as going sudo pacman. So if you're installing stuff, it would be like this, but I don't know that that's the right package name or whatever, so I can do this to search. And these are for official packages. If you need to install, well, you don't need to, but you should install Yay, the package manager, and what was I going to say? With Yay, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, don't run it in root, and I think it gives you it shows you the pacman stuff as well, but I'm not completely sure. So yeah, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna find what's up. I named my user Luke after Luke Smith. Get some stuff. So this you have to research a bit too, I think, and this is what I've got installed. I'm not 100% sure that I'm doing things correctly, but the GPU is working. Maybe not fully optimized, I don't know, but yeah, so you can see that you have, I activated this multi-lib. Just Google how to do that. You've got these community packages, extras. Yeah, so I installed this. I don't know that I need that. And I installed this. Don't know that I need it, but I did. What else? I just want to show you about Yay. What should I search for? Steam actually is a pacman. It's in the multi-lib, yeah. So this will come up. I installed this, and then for some reason, this was also on Elementary. You have to find where the Steam, I guess is a binary, wherever that is, and then you have to run it from I had to run it from the command line. Or maybe I just ended up using this. But on Elementary, and I believe on Arch as well, I had to do that. So then, okay, so AUR is the not the official packages, but and now it's kind of confusing because this is like official community packages, and this is sort of unofficial community, is AUR. And what I didn't notice at first, but I wish I had noticed, is that see these numbers over here? It's giving you, at the end, it's giving you the most popular packages. You get these plus numbers, and I'm not sure what this percentage is. Maybe it's percentage of people who recommended it. I don't know. But yeah, so I have Steam installed for games. What else? Okay, so yeah, the Nvidia. So I just want to mention with Nvidia. So if you do not install your GPU drivers, everything is going to work. Well, I don't know about games, but things are going to work. But the interface is going to be sluggish and lag and skip and jump and all that. It's not going to be a comfortable experience. It's going to feel like if you run a VM, a virtual machine in your operating system on a Mac or whatever. I think you have the same thing going on. Usually, it's not smooth at all. So that's a big thing. And none of these guides that I found, none of them told me to do that, but I kind of figured it out. And so one way you can check this is just go into a browser and just ditch this guy. And you can go to like Shadertoy will probably work. So these are WebGL things, and if your CPU is not, or sorry, your GPU is not set up properly, I don't think you're going to be able to display any of these. Well, actually, no, I think you can display these, but when you click on them, I don't think that this is going to work. So this is kind of, for me, proof that that this is working. And this is an awesome website. And by the way, GLSL Sandbox is kind of the 4chan version, if you will, of Shadertoy. Lots of cool stuff out there. Using WebGL, which is just OpenGL for the web, which this language for these shaders is called GLSL. And it's very mathematical. There's not that much going on. You can actually what are they called? The keywords of the language. There's not that many functions. On Shadertoy, it's a bit more complicated. They've got other options like buffers and stuff, but because you can view stuff in VR, I believe, and there's a lot of stuff. Anyway, back to the point of this video. Now the cool stuff. I mentioned the list of obstacles and problems. Now the cool stuff. So I'm super happy with this operating system and Larbs and all that. For one thing, the reason I took the time to do all this, well, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but one of my laptops, the main one, stopped working. Basically, it would shut down randomly. So it's kind of the last straw. Even though I did a clean install of the Mac OS, it was still shutting down. It was overheating or something. I don't know exactly. And yeah, actually I did, anyway, I don't want to get into all the details of that, but it was the last straw, and I always wanted to make the switch to Linux, so this is great. Of course, if you don't love the terminal, then you probably won't like this. Then there's I want to mention a few other benefits of doing this Larbs install. First is kind of all the .bash RC stuff, all the aliases and kind of cool tricks that Luke Smith has put in there. You should check out his videos and his channel. You just find a lot of useful shortcuts, I think. Then also some nice command line tools, I guess, or applications. That two of them I wanted to mention that actually I just didn't know about them. You can install them on a Mac and use them. But for watching videos, it's MPV. You'll check it out and Google the hotkeys. It's just a better way to watch videos. And then there's Ranger, which I'll just show you. I believe R works here. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't feel comfortable showing the world all my files I got on my computer, but you can check it out. Ranger is awesome. I have it showing the hidden files too. That's something that it doesn't do by default, but quick Google search will solve that problem. So anyway, so MPV and Ranger, you can run those on a Mac and check them out. I recommend it. I also want to mention, this is really unrelated, but the command tree, you can get this on any Unix or Linux system, and this is very valuable. Okay, just randomly thought of that off the top of my head. Let me see here. Other stuff, I mean Vim, kind of the whole, I haven't even really mentioned the whole like main idea of all of this, which is that you kind of minimize use of the mouse. Of course I still use it, but maybe I should use it a lot less. But so, for example, if I go to a new workspace, I'm not using the mouse, just get a terminal window going, and of course in any Linux machine that's easy. But you can make a bunch of windows. I can go like this, make one here. So if I can move this around easily like that, move it below. I can go like this. I can go like this. I can go like this, etc. So I can close this one easily. And that's just awesome. And if I do, what is it called? The super key D. I can load an app here. That will just appear. I don't like where that's positioned, so go like this. By the way, this cute browser thing is kind of designed for using Vim in here. But with this Larbs installation, it comes with Firefox with the Vixen plugin extension installed in the browser, which is also about using sort of the standard Vim shortcuts in the browser. And the standard Vim, I mean, everything I just did, and I should figure out how to show keys in the video, but everything I just did was using the HJKL keys. Well, not everything, but most of it. Combinations of that and Shift and the super key and stuff like that to make it kind of logical if you know the basics of Vim. And then Vim is kind of, the idea here is to use Vim. Of course, you can also install, let me see. You can install Sublime anyway. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think that's the correct name of the directory. But you can go like this and make this full screen and all that. So yeah, I think that might be it. I know I'll think later that I'm forgetting a few things, but I'll leave it at that for now. Like I said, this kind of has to evolve. I want to make a video, even not only to help other people, but even for myself. Like if I come back to this 5 years from now and want to install Arch on a machine, on a Mac, I don't want to struggle for days again. So I want to have all the information in one place. I also might make a list of information on a website, because for a lot of people prefer that over a video. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. This kind of was a bit of a mess, a bit of a stream of consciousness, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, so that's how it happened. So that's it. So yeah, thanks. If you have questions, put it in the comments. That's it for now.